I went to Avijosi over the weekend. Avijosi is an animation event. It's probably one of the bigger ones in Johannesburg, outside of some of the animation stuff they do in Comic Con, and I particularly enjoyed it. It was like all the vibe, the young people, the content creators, and kind of the very tech forward feel of it was very cool. And I'll definitely be going in future. I was there sort of helping out with portfolio reviews and things, but I particularly enjoyed some of the AI talks that I went to because me personally, I've been quite cautious about adopting AI. And after going to this one, I feel like I have some clarity and some thoughts I'd like to share about what I will how I will be treating AI going forward. So, as a preface, I just want to sort of say that as far as I know, might be wrong about this, but AI is not a technically correct term for what we have yet. We don't have an artificial intelligence, but we have large language models which can ape reasoning and logical processes, but are not actually experiencing or creating reason or engaging in logical processes. So that's just a bit of a preface. Second of all, I wasn't exactly surprised by this, but it was like, it seemed really obvious that nobody in the industry in South Africa who isn't actively experimenting with AI really has any idea how it's going to affect the future of the industry, which is rather telling in some ways. It's not that AI is actively taking away jobs yet, but it's that people are kind of holding on to their butts a little bit, like wondering what's going to happen. So seeing a lot of people that I've known for a long time, not really knowing or kind of just cautiously standing back as I've done, watching to see what's going to happen with AI, like seeing that kind of being the norm. I wasn't super surprised to see that, but it was encouraging to see people who were actively engaging in the process. They were learning about it, particularly some of the 3D studios out there. And just people who have always been kind of interested in the cutting edge of tech and where that goes, and what kind of people who are used to tech disruptors, in other words. There was a lot of language sort of thrown around about like, oh, we've seen disruptions before. It's sort of like disrupted and made everyone nervous, but then it settled down into a kind of norm. I agree with that to a certain degree, but I think what most people, especially most young people in the industry, are worried about is that it's not just any disruptor. There's a possibility of a singularity, as far as I understand. The worry is that there's a singularity event where AI starts to teach itself faster than human beings can learn the AI. As yet, we're not really sure, or it hasn't really happened. But as with anything to do with AI, what is true now might not be true 5 minutes from now. So it was sort of interesting to get a bit of a ley line of where everyone's feeling about AI right now. And it seems to be a mix of excitement and caution, which seems to be typical of the kind of feelings that AI produces. The third thing the next thing I sort of realized was that AI is actually very animation friendly as a process. Once I started engaging with it, once I started like having some of the tools demoed in sessions and so on, I kind of realized that most of the thing about AI is that it's just a geyser of flattening styles and images that has been sort of sucked up from everywhere all over the web. And it's actually pretty hard to get it's hard to get something that doesn't look like sort of the hyper airbrushed AI look and feel to something, but also like it's not only does it have a very specific sort of vibe to it, it's also hard to recreate exact models of your characters. And I was really interested to learn about like training LoRa's, for example, with Comfy UI, and learn how Comfy UI specifically is trying to make that a process that animators can actually start to train their own character to do and produce whatever they want. Like they can also have repeatable results, which is the main thing with animation. So it's not super animation. It's not super friendly to the animation brain who wants to control every single little detail. To have a thing that is, in the words of Hilton Treves, one of the experts who was demoing LoRa's, in his words, it's like trying to herd a cat to go across the room at the moment that you wanted to, and then having 50 cats that you're trying to do that. You're trying to herd all of these cats to go in the same direction at the same time, which is a distinctly unanimation vibe. We build everything from the ground up precisely because we want total control over the process. So it's actually, as much as it's frustrating to have a single static image that you cannot indefinitely reliably reproduce as you can with training an artist to draw the same kind of character over and over again, that frustration is extrapolated tenfold when it comes to animation, where motion and timing come into play, where motion and timing are not just making the character move in a vaguely lifelike way, it's actually storytelling. I'm being harsh on AI, but let me also be clear about the approaches I want to adopt for myself concerning AI. So one is that I don't want to sit and wait. I want to practice the AI tools and start seeing them as tools. I want to actually gain some mastery and a measure of proficiency with these tools that speak to my specific industry and ambitions, and particularly with larger projects like my short film. I have a ton of projects I could potentially try out some AI tools on. The main one I'm thinking of being my short film Red Hill, and I look particularly forward to learning about training laws. I think it might be a bit of much of a muchness for the kind of story that I'm trying to make. I'm happy, in other words, doing all the art for my animation and all the layout and all the Photoshop drawings and all the backgrounds and all the character designs, all the storyboards. I'm all happy with doing all of that. I'm not happy with the idea of animating it. I draw the line at animation. I tried it once and it did not suit me very well. Ideally, of course, I'd like to be able to hire people to do this, but I worry that the scale of short film that I've got going on might be a little much even for me and some very proficient animators. So I don't anticipate I'll be able to make a whole AI short, but it's possible it could help me with crowd shots and make the film feel a bit bigger budget than it would have done otherwise. My second approach, and this might be a little typically regressive for someone who's planning a very big leap technology-wise, my next step is that I would actually like to actively develop my own voice as a creative and embrace what used to be called a classical education. I will read books, practice arts, crafts, sciences, maybe read a bit more nonfiction, and in other words, actively embrace learning as one of the best things that I can do with my time. I will be a landed gentleman. I will take the landed gentleman approach to learning and education, not because I can compete with how quickly AI learns, but because when I synthesize information, it results in my own voice and the desire to create. When AI synthesizes information, it results in a voice that pleases everyone and no one, and is also scapegoated for the unpracticed voices that feed it. Also, by embracing learning as one of the best things I can do with my time, I am resisting that kind of that very vulnerable state that a lot of people get into in their various industries, where they learned one thing once in college and they are already out of practice and they're already out of the current state of being by 5 years in, 10 years in. Maybe they built entire business models on a specific technology, on a specific way of doing things, and they haven't really practiced how to get on top of things. And I fully understand that. I am neither down on AI or on these people for kind of just wanting the one thing they know how to do really well to continue working. I'm not down on AI for being a disruptor. I think it's a fairly inevitable evolution for humanity, but in doing so, it does. I've long thought of AI not really as a thing that will end art. It's ridiculous to think that AI will end artistry and the creative desire to make something. It won't, but it very well may disrupt and change forever the business of art. And in order to kind of this isn't really about trying to be at the cutting edge. It's like, boff, I hate the idea of being at the cutting edge of things. I hate the pressure that puts upon, us mere mortals when we are confronted with a literal robot future, about the idea of like, how are we going to possibly compete, and the idea is specifically that we don't compete. So to some degree, I think I'm trying to do both. I think I'm trying to get into a mindset of being open to learning, and the idea that openness to learning will be my mainstay. Not so much the things I learn, not so much the tools I learn. From now on, it is clear that I cannot put my future trust in any one tool that I learn. So I must trust the process of learning itself.